Hi, I'm Pat McGrew with What They Think, and with me is one of my favorite people in workflow, Andrew Bales calling. So he's got this really long history in the industry, and we're not going to go into it because no one's got that kind of time.
Thank you very much.
Right? But Andrew's with Ultimate TechnoGraphics, and there's a lot of sea change going on in workflow and making workflows smarter. And you guys are sort of in the middle of all of this because you control a lot of it.
Kind of in the middle at the end, yeah.
Yeah, and so there's a lot that you do. What is the most important thing for people to be watching for when it comes to making their workflow plans, and we hope they're making workflow plans for 23 into 2024?
I think it really depends on the company and where they are.
Is automation important? Okay, stop laughing, because not everybody thinks so.
Massively.
Some people believe that as long as they have John in the back who knows how to, schedule on an Excel spreadsheet, life is good.
It's that as long as the press is moving, then life's
Excellent,
great.
But that's probably not true.
Whether it's making money or not, who knows? I mean, there's so many topics. I mean, is workflow as workflow? Is it efficient? Is it delivering files in a timely fashion? Is the press running to speed? Analytics, are you measuring? If you're measuring, are you then improving on what you're measuring? Continuous improvement. It really depends on the company and where they are in the automation journey and what they have. We see a lot of, I spent probably 20 years files to the press with pre-flight, and then being involved with, as you say, various workflows. There's a lot of companies who kind of have got that done. And there's just incremental improvements that they're putting in that area because they're measuring, and some are even refining their work to try and standardise better to get more efficiencies that way. And then there's a lot of people that we see that have done that. They've got the press, performing well, and the bottleneck is now the finishing. So they're looking to us to automate. JDF to the finisher, to set the finishing up, to reduce wastage, to, even talking to one of our partners here. Now when they go into a company to do an analysis, they start at the bindery because it's literally the slowest part of the process.
Yeah.
So everything else is a million miles an hour, then it gets to sheets on a pallet, and then it's, we're going to need some more room because we're producing, but we can't convert to jobs, and if you can't convert to a job, then you can't invoice. So it really depends, and I think the first part is an analysis and a kind of an honesty about where you are. And with the analysis then comes hopefully the indication of where your pain points are. We were talking to people to hear that haven't really started, and you say, what do you want to automate? And they say, well, everything. It's not going to work, because by the time you've spec'd what you actually need, it's changed, and that's a project that will never start, and if it does start, it will never finish. So just start on the pieces that are going to give you the biggest benefit, give you confidence, prove to your team, because you need to do it collectively, you need to get everybody on board. You also need a champion within the business that's going to drive this. It's not an isolated thing, it has to be a collective thing. Does that answer your question?
It does. I think what you're telling us is that that there's a process involved, and you have to understand your processes and find the pain points to be able to define where the efficiencies come from. And as you're automating, you want to make sure you're automating best practices, not worst practices.
Yeah, don't replicate what you're doing now and automate it. There's a great tool called value stream mapping, where you map the process.
Right.
It's quite complicated, but basically you map how long the actual process takes to do and how long it actually takes. Because in a manual environment, it might take 5 minutes to do it,
right?
But John's got 27 other things to do, and then he finally gets around to it after 2 hours. So a 5-minute process takes 2 hours, 5 minutes, whereas if you automate it, it will take 5 minutes.
Right.
And that's a very general thing to say, but it's very often everyone in the room, map it out on the wall, and then, where do we need to improve? What do we need to improve? Quality, throughput, is it pre-press can't deliver files fast enough to the press? Is it too many mistakes when it gets to the press? Right. Files can't be processed and they have to go back? Is it, information from the customer?
Right.
Are we using metadata in the business, or are we writing paper tickets which are out of date by the time they get to the shop floor?
Yep.
I mean,
all those
yeah,
things.
all the above.
Okay, so you've set up perfectly for my last question for you, and it is to do with standards. So I've been playing in standards for decades. I know
playing is a good word.
It's because standards are complex, and you mentioned JDF when you were mentioning one of the facets of workflow, and PDF is a standard, JDF is a standard. There are variations of all of them. If I'm a printer, it's 2023. Do I have to care about standards?
Depends if your business is working well. If you have problems, I mean, standards are there, and it's, I had a discussion with somebody the other day. Said, standards, it stifles creativity. Yeah, and we said, well, ICC profiles are a standard.
Yeah.
Paper sizes
are a standard.
If the standards are there to help you if you need to do it. If you don't need the help, then standards may not help you at all. They may be, we talked about the Ghent Workgroup and PDFX1, PDFX4. There's been a big push to move to PDFX4. With that comes a certain understanding, but also a certain, what's the word I'm looking for? A comfortable feeling that if your workflow is set up correctly, you have a degree of predictability, because if you make a PDFX4 file, it comes with certain understandings that the fonts are embedded,
right.
The color spaces are correct.
Okay.
And it's going to flow through. You can also configure your DFE to support a PDFX4 file. So that,
right.
and Ghent Workgroup has a test suite for that to
which I love, and I love the fact that they have that.
Which then means that everything everything that comes in, whether it's transparent or it's not, is going to work correctly. You've already predefined that, and you've tested it, and it works. That's where a standard works well. It gives you predictability to move through. If you're running a press, it gives you that predictability of densities and things like that. But
if I have to pay attention, so I should probably be aware of standards, and I kind of know where to find ICC profiles.
Yeah.
If I want to know more about PDF standards, say Ghent Workgroup, how do I find Ghent Workgroup?
www.gvg.org.
.org, not .com. .org.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and when you talk about PDF standards, I mean, PDF is now such an all-encompassing standard. If you look at the latest one, the PDF2 spec, there's about that much in there to do with print, and about that much in there to do
everything
with
else.
Insurance and paperless office and medical and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of done. But sometimes you get files with all that garbage in as well. Converting to a standard will help you get rid of all of that and give you a predictable file.
And should I be paying attention to JDF? Is that going to be important for my workflow?
It's, if you want to connect to finishing devices and dry finishing devices, then
time to start looking.
It's a standard where everybody's kind of got their own variation of a standard.
But it's
the best thing out there.
Okay.
I mean, it works extremely well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Andrew, thanks so much for taking
Pat,
time. So,
thank you very much.
Thanks for the help with workflow, and thanks for the help with standards. Really, really helpful, because people get confused. I'm Pat McGrew for What They Think. You have been enjoying Andrew Bale's columns from Ultimate TechnoGraphics. Thank you.
Thank you very much.